Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to be talking about net present value. It's a very simple idea, so it's basically drawing on the idea of present value but adding a little sort of subtraction at the end of the initial cash flow. So basically, just to quickly go over what exactly net present value is before we actually discuss this question. Net present value is basically the same idea as present value. You are discounting cash flows now or a specific time into the future back to the present. Except the net part of net present value means that you subtract the initial cost that it basically costs you, usually at time zero. So if you think about an industrial company, for example, it'll invest a specific amount of money in a revenue generating asset, but it pays for that asset when it first acquires it, but then that asset continues on to generate revenue for it every single year. So to calculate the net present value, we discount back every single positive cash flow we get in the future from that asset, subtract the initial cost of acquiring that asset in the first place. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing in this question. So we have that the role in supply companies considering an expansion project with cash flows is shown below. The cost of capital is 11%. Calculate the net present value, profitability index, and internal rate of return. So for this video, we're just going to be going over NPV. So I basically laid out the information over here just so we have, this was a picture. I thought it'd be better if I could walk the viewers through the example. So we have the time over here. So time zero means right now. So initially when you're purchasing this asset, you're going to be spending $2,400, and 1 year from now you're going to get $1,100, 2 years from now you're going to get $1,200, and so on. So the best way to do this question is to use a program like Excel, which is exactly why I'm doing this demonstration through a computer. So to calculate the present value, we break it down, this question, into calculating the present value at the end of every single year of one individual cash flow. So over here we have that, we'll start off with year one because that's a bit simpler. So 1 year from now we're going to get $1,100. So to discount that back, that would simply be that amount divided by 1 plus the cost of capital, which I've just written down over here, to the power, and instead of entering the number every time, I'm just going to put the year number because that's the number we use for the next row. When we're going to discount the 1200, it'll be to the power of 2 and then 3 and then 4, so it's simply user to use a cellular reference. And I'm going to make this a constant reference because we have the cost of capital in cell B13. So we calculate that and we get 990.99. And very simple, we don't have to calculate the formula again, just copy that formula down. We can also copy this up, which should give us the same amount. So discounting back something that happens right now just gives you the same thing again because no time has passed, there's no opportunity cost, and there's no sort of obstruction that's created because of the cost of capital. So simply speaking, now we have the present value of every single individual cash flow, and to calculate the net present value, to calculate the present value, you would sum all of these. But to calculate the net present value, you would add this amount, which would essentially mean subtracting it because it's a negative number, and you'd get the net present value. So you just do sum of these numbers, and you get 2023.07. So that's your final answer. And just to reiterate, because I really want to drive this concept home of what exactly this means, this net present value represents the future cash flows, or this is how we can think about it. The future cash flows that we expect to get, subtract the initial investment cost, which is almost always negative. Now there is also a chance that in the future, so one of these cash flows could also be negative. They don't necessarily have to be positive. So in year 4, something bad could happen, or we might need to invest more into this machinery for some reason. So it might make us 1,000, but we lose 1,000 on it, so this could become negative 1,000. And then your net present value would go down to 560 because the cash flow in year 3 actually turns out to be negative. So what these numbers are, the cash flows specifically are irrelevant. It's the idea that you're discounting them back and subtracting the initial cost as well. So that was the video on net present value. I'll be going over the ideas of the profitability index and internal rate of return in the next video.